hello, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. I was just doing some light reading. Okay, we're actually going to mount an optic today on a Shadow Systems pistol. We've shown it on the board before. We've never actually walked through it in a first-person kind of setting. It's time for us to do that. This will be helpful, I think, if you have an optic-ready gun and you've not mounted an optic yet. It might even be helpful if you have mounted an optic, because some of them are not put on right. So let's go through it together. We have a Shadow Systems MR920 Flat Dark Earth. We picked this gun because we wanted a little bit of contrast so that you could see me do it. So please come over here and let's watch the process. Okay, first step is to grab your manual, and there's a table in here that's going to show you which spacer and which screw to use. Okay, not every optic ever made is represented here, obviously. These are the ones that we have some experience with or we have tried out. I would say most of the major kind of hard use optics are covered, but start there in the manual so you know which screws to use. This little baggie is going to have all your parts in it. I'm going to pour it out in this tray so you can see it. The screws that we use are huge. They're really big. And that's one of the reasons why we have this reputation for being the strongest mounting system out there. For a point of, oh God, they're so small. Look at these adorable little screws. For a point of comparison, these little buddies are the ones that come with a competitor's optic mounting system. So the difference is pretty clear. I know you guys can see it. Okay, we're mounting a Holosun 507C in the blacked out Shadow Systems Special Edition. I'm going to show you really quick what the optic looks like and then a comment on the screws that it comes with. So there are screws in the box. Look, don't use those. Okay, use the optic screws that come with our pistol. We use a 640 thread. Some of the competitors, or some of the ones that come with optics anyway, use a 632 thread. Ours are 640 for some sciencey reasons that are good reasons. So use the 640 screws. Okay, so there's the blacked out Holosun, the Shadow Systems Edition 507C. Cool looking optic. Okay, first step here is to remove the cover plate that comes from the factory on the gun, and so let's do that really quick. The screws will be thread lock. They'll be blue Loctited from the factory, so you might feel a little resistance as they unscrew. Don't worry, you're not like cross-threading something or anything like that. It's just thread locker. Okay. All right. So this is a T10 Torx. You obviously don't need a big elaborate handle like this. This is just off the manufacturing line, so it's a little bit bigger. Cover plate comes off, and then you have the screws that are inside the slide. Okay, so, or the screw holes, excuse me. The screw holes will vary, which ones you use will vary on which optic you have. It'll be pretty self-explanatory once you start the process. I'm going to take the gun apart just so that it's a little easier to lay the slide down and show you what we're doing. Okay. Okay, cool. So like I said, we're mounting the Holosun. We really want to make sure we use the right spacer. You'll notice that the spacer has like a little key locking system. There's these little projections that will go into corresponding recesses on the slide. There's recesses on the front or on the rear or on the front, depending on which spacer you're using. You'll check the manual, but I happen to know that this is the Holosun one. Okay, so it fits right in there. It's gonna seem as you first putting it in there like it's not fitting really well. It's supposed to get smashed into position when you put the optic in. So I just want to make that point. It is too big for the space that it is occupying. Okay, that is by design. So you will need to kind of rock and feel and find that sweet spot where the optic drops into place and just kind of push it down until it's locked in. Okay, but it's gonna feel really tight, and it's supposed to. That spacer is getting compressed as you tighten the screws. Okay, all right, you're going to use the included Loctite 243. You can also just buy Loctite 243 if you need more. 243 is what we recommend. It is a blue, meaning it is a tool removable type of Loctite, but the important thing is it's really viscous, okay? So give it a little shake. It kind of has a tendency to stay where you put it, and it will also function as a retaining compound, which is pretty important, and I'll explain why when we get to that step. Okay, you'll notice in the manual that the Holosun, that's hilarious. That didn't open. Wow, can't believe that just happened. Do I have a knife? Nope.
Bite it.
I'm going to end up eating lock. Oh, that worked. Okay. Okay. All right, back to our professional video. Okay, so I happen to know that we're going to be using the Vortex screws. They're listed as either Vortex or the Holosun 507C X2 version. So the X1s use the RMR screws, the X2s use the bigger Vortex screws, or the smaller Vortex screws. Okay, so when you put the thread locker on the screw, folks, you're putting it just a little line of it. You don't need a ton. It gets spread all over when you thread it in, and you're just putting it on the threaded section to start. Just a little tiny line like that. You don't want a ton of thread locker getting down into the slide. For goodness sakes, don't put it in the holes, okay? You're just putting it in on the screw. All right, so you're gonna get that screw started. You're not gonna tighten it fully, but you'll bring it down part way, okay? At this point, you stop. This is pretty important. I no longer see threads. I just see that unthreaded machine section of the screw poking up. You're then going to take your Loctite and you're going to put a little drop in that spot that's just been exposed. Okay? I know you can't really see that because it's blue on black, but the goal is to have a little bit of Loctite at the top of the screw where the unthreaded section of the screw is going into the hole. And the reason is it's a pretty tight fit to the optic, but we want to make it really tight. And so we achieve that by using the thread locker as a retaining compound. A retaining compound is basically designed to take up a small amount of space around a mandrel or around anything that's like a circular sort of unthreaded thing. You'll want to take up the space, and that's what it's doing for us here. So I'm going to add a little bead of it right there, a little bead of it on the threaded section to start. I'm going to get that started into the hole, okay? And then I'm going to repeat that process where I add a little dollop to the top of the screw, okay? The threads are partway into the slide, so they're going to keep this from getting where we don't want it, okay? And about like that. And then you'll tighten it all the way down. In a little bit, we'll likely kind of squeeze out, and that's what you want, all right? So I'm going to tighten this down. Ideally, you're not going to put in like so much that it gets out onto the emitter. Okay, you don't want that. But you want a little bit between the top of the screw and the optic. It just kind of beds the screw into place. Okay? All right, how tight? 10 to 12 inch-pounds. That's just like pretty snug. You can do it by hand. I mean, the thread locker also means it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so again, we've added thread locker to the threads of the screw to start. Oh, magnetism. To the threads of the screw to start here, and then we've increased the thread locker at the very end by adding it to the unthreaded section of the screw before we tighten it down. Okay? That just means all the space is taken up and you have this rock solid awesome mount when it's all done. Okay? Last thing is, after you have mounted the optic, give it 24 hours before you go to the range because you want that thread locker to fully cure. It cures anaerobically. That means that it cures in that air-free environment after you've tightened the screw down. That's when the curing starts. If you put a dollop of thread locker on a table, it really won't cure. It needs to be in an anaerobic environment. And so tighten those screws down, wait 24 hours, and it will tighten up, or it will harden up. Last piece is you may have a little bit that squeezes out. You'll just want to wipe that off with a Q-tip or something like that. Okay? All right, that is the process for mounting an optic on Shadow Systems' patented optic cut. It's a good system. It will serve you well. Good luck. If you have questions, by all means, give us a shout. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.